Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going to break down a really profound teaching about what mindfulness practice truly is. And it gets right to the heart of a problem I think a lot of us have felt. You learn all this stuff, you absorb all this information, but you still feel totally lost about what you're actually supposed to do.
So, here's how we're going to tackle it. We'll start with that super common feeling of being stuck. Then we're going to completely reframe how we think about practice, our feelings, and even what causes our reactions. And finally, we'll see what practice actually looks like through this brand new lens.
All right, let's just dive right in. So many of us, we go to retreats, we listen to talks, we read the books, and we walk away feeling like, wow, I learned so much. But then, you get back to your normal, everyday life, and something weird happens. That clarity starts to fade, and this really frustrating confusion creeps in.
And you find yourself wrestling with this one question, a question that kind of makes you feel like you've missed the whole point. And honestly, it's a pretty discouraging feeling.
And there it is. That's the paradox. You feel like you have all the knowledge, but you don't have the know-how. This feeling of being lost is exactly what we are going to unpack and solve right here in this explainer.
Now, what's so interesting is that the solution isn't just another technique or another set of instructions. It all starts with a huge fundamental shift in how we even think about the word practice.
Most of the time, we treat practice like it's a recipe, right? A checklist of things to do to get some kind of result. But this teaching flips that on its head. It suggests we should see practice more like a law of nature, like a principle, something you have to understand and work with, not something you can force. And this is just a brilliant way to put it. Think about it. You don't wake up in the morning and say, okay, time to practice gravity. No way. You just understand how it works. You respect it, and you live your life in alignment with it. The idea here is that the way our minds work follows similar, unbreakable principles.
So how does this big idea, this shift from method to principle, actually apply to our lives? Well, it all starts by completely reframing the very nature of our feelings. We say it all the time, that person made me angry. This song makes me happy. But according to this teaching, a feeling is just a neutral, impersonal thing that happens. It just pops up whenever our mind comes into contact with an object. Any object.
I mean, really think about that for a second. A comment someone makes, a song on the radio, another person. None of those things actually contain anger or joy inside of them. The feeling isn't in the object. It's just this neutral blip that happens when our mind connects with it.
Okay, so here's the million-dollar question. If the feeling itself is just a neutral event, why does it cause us so much trouble? Why do we suffer? Well, the answer comes down to two very common, almost automatic mistakes our mind makes in a split second.
So first, we project that feeling out onto the object. We believe the thing itself is the source, that traffic is infuriating. And then, second, we immediately grab it and claim ownership. I am so angry. We take this neutral event and we weave it into the story of me.
And this leads us to a really radical point. In this framework, all feeling is seen as a form of suffering. Now, hold on. That doesn't mean pleasure isn't pleasant. Of course it is. What it means is that the process of getting it wrong, projecting the feeling, and then claiming it as mine, that is what sets us up for attachment, for aversion, and for feeling dissatisfied in the long run.
And this way of thinking completely reverses how we normally see cause and effect. It's a total flip. Let's look at how this principle actually plays out in real life.
So our normal everyday view is linear. A causes B. My coworker's actions cause my anger. That person's appearance causes my desire. Simple. But the wisdom view flips it completely. It says that our internal states, our aversion, our greed, they already exist inside of us, and they are constantly scanning the world for a target, something to latch onto and project meaning onto.
This is such a game changer. The problem isn't really the colleague on their phone. The problem is the aversion that was already humming along in your mind, just looking for a reason to flare up. Your colleague's behavior is just the hook it decided to hang its hat on.
And it works the exact same way for attraction, for things we want. The mind already has greed in it. And that greed has a mental concept of what beauty is. When it finds someone who matches that concept, it projects the label of beauty onto them. The beauty isn't some objective thing that person has. It's a label applied by a mind that was already primed with greed.
Okay, so with this totally radical reframing of our inner world, let's circle all the way back to that original paradox and finally answer the big question. What does it actually mean to practice?
Right? I mean, if we're not supposed to be following a checklist, if we're not trying to make ourselves feel calm or peaceful, what in the world are we supposed to be doing? Well, the answer isn't a technique. It's an active, ongoing cycle of engaging with these principles right in the middle of our messy daily lives.
So practice becomes this living, breathing loop. It's a cycle of these three interconnected actions. And this is how you turn abstract information that you've heard into real lived wisdom that you actually own.
Here's how it works. First, you remind yourself of the principle, like, okay, aversion comes first. Then, in the moment it's happening, you understand how it's playing out. You see it. Ah, there's that aversion in me looking for a target. And finally, you investigate it. You check it out for yourself. You see if it's true, turning someone else's teaching into your own direct insight.
And this, right here, is the ultimate shift. The linear view, this causes that, leaves us feeling lost, like we're just pinballs bouncing off a world that's constantly acting on us. The real practice is to develop perpendicular vision. It's about seeing all the different pieces in any single moment, the object, the mind, the greed, the aversion, all of it just arising together at once. When you can see that whole picture, you're not lost anymore. You are seeing reality as it actually is, and that is the practice.